Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mama Hanifa Ajuman, and on behalf of Keep Growing Detroit, I'd like to thank you all for being here at our Canning 101 class. This afternoon, we will be canning bread and butter pickles. I have already prepared the cucumbers. So what we have to do now is we have 4 pounds of cucumbers, and what we need to do is rinse the cucumbers because they have been sitting in salt, and the salt helps to draw out the moisture in the cucumbers. So we want to rinse the cucumbers and the onions in cold water. So we'll rinse these really well to get all of the salt out. And the reason that I prep the cucumbers and the onions beforehand is because the cucumbers and the onions need to kind of sit in that salt for at least an hour and a half. Some recipes even encourage you to let the cucumbers and the onions sit overnight. But generally it's between an hour to overnight. And so these have been sitting for a couple of hours. And we want to rinse them off really well. Looks like I might have to do it in 2 batches because my colander usually I give it a little shake. Ice cubes. And the salt also helps to keep your cucumbers crisp. So that it draws the water, the moisture, and it also helps to keep the cucumbers crisp because sometimes the crispy is a hit or miss with me. I've made batches of pickles where the cucumbers were crisp and sometimes they were a little mushy, but they were still good. And one of the things though is you should always make sure that your cucumbers are firm. You don't want to use cucumbers that are, and the fresher the cucumbers are, the firmer they'll be. You don't want to use cucumbers that have been sitting around for a week, 4 or 5 days. You want to use fresh picked cucumbers, and that will help to ensure that your pickles will be nice and crispy. Okay, so we start off with 4 pounds of cucumbers, and for this particular bread and butter recipe, this comes from the Ball Blue Book of Preserving, and this is your canning Bible. Okay, lots of good information regarding canning, as well as wonderful, easy to follow recipes in the Ball Blue Book of Preserving. And I also like this book. Put 'em up. This is my second most favorite canning book. Okay, and you can Ball also has a website. I think it's simply ball.com. If you don't want to purchase the book, you can always go on the website because there's lots of great information there. And a third resource is any university extension office. And Michigan State University has an extension office. It has an extension website, and you can go to their extension website again and get lots of helpful information regarding canning, especially if you are a novice, if you are a beginning canner. So I've got to get another bowl, so I'm going to step away. And that's the ping ping of my bowls. Okay, so I'll put these in the bowl so that I can now rinse the remainder of the cucumbers. They're not pickled yet. The cucumbers and the onions. And although this class is pre-recorded, we will actually have an opportunity for questions and answers during the scheduled time for the class on Thursday. So if I'm forgetting something, if I forget something or you just have a burning question, you will be able to ask those questions on Thursday. Do another quick rinse. And now that they're all rinsed, I'm going to put them all in the colander because I want them to be able to drain off the excess water. So, I want them to drain that the excess water. So I'll sit them right here in this bowl. And now what we're going to do, we're going to prepare the brine for the cucumbers, but I've already put the jars in the canner. Okay, and we're going to turn the fire on because the jars have already been washed, but you want the jars to simmer for about 10 minutes to sterilize. And you leave the jars in the pot because you also want your jars to be hot when you put your cucumbers in the jar, because you want to make sure that the jars don't crack. So you just leave the jars inside the pot until we are ready to pack the cucumbers inside. So what we're using pint-sized jars. This particular recipe makes somewhere between 4, we might even get 5 pints. It depends on the size of your cucumbers, and most of these were smaller cucumbers, so we might even get 5 pints. Now with your lids and rings. Although Ball now says that you don't have to simmer those in hot water, I still do it, just because I've been doing it for so long. But it's now recommended, the recommendation is that you don't have to preheat your lids and rings. So we'll just let those sit there until we are ready to use them. And now what I want to do is I want to go over your canning materials. So this is your jar lifter, okay? When I get ready to pack the cucumbers, I will use the jar lifter to remove the jars from our canner. This is, I call it a debubbler because when you pack your ingredients, you also want to go around the edges, the inside of the jar, around the edges to release any air bubbles that might be present. But this tool has a dual purpose. You see the little indentations. These are markers that you probably can't really see it, but these are markers that will help you to measure the head space of the jar. So the first one is 1/4, and because I am familiar with the ridges on the jars, I pretty much know that this is the 1/4 measurement. And as you can see, when I put the tool inside the jar, it stops right at this ridge. So that tells me that this is how far I need to fill my jars. Some things 1/4, then you have 1/2. Okay, you have 1/2, and if you just go around that jar, you can see that's 1/2. Then you have 3/4, and you just continue to go around the jar, and the last one is 1 inch. Okay, and this is the 1 inch mark. Okay, but usually with jams, jellies, pickles, the recommended head space or jar filling point is 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch from the top of the jar. Okay, so we have our debubbler, we have our jar lifter, and of course this is our funnel. This is what we use to put our ingredients inside the jars. And this is just our measuring cup. And I think those are all of the tools, but that's the other utensil. And if, again, you are a beginning canner, you can purchase a canning kit at most of the big box stores and at any hardware store. And this is called a water bath canner. There are two types of canning. There's water bath canning, and then there's pressure canning. Water bath canning is for high acid foods, and those are generally your fruits. When you get into vegetable canning, meat canning, sauces that have meats, you will need a pressure canner, because with your hot water bath canner, the highest the temperature gets is 212 degrees. But to safely can low acid foods, the temperature needs to be 240 degrees in order to kill the spores that come from the botulism bacteria. Sometimes people have asked, why do we have to have sugar? There are some canning recipes that you can use for jams and jellies that don't require sugar. But one of the reasons that we use sugar is not only for flavor, but sugar is also a preservative, and so sugar helps to inhibit the growth of microbes in your foods. So that's an important aspect, not only because it adds flavor, but it also destroys any microbes that might be in your recipe or in your canning. Okay? And you want to make sure that anything that can produce yeast or mold, that all of those things are destroyed in order for your canning to have a shelf life and be safe to eat. So the sugar destroys microbes. Your vinegar simply adds acidity to the food, and your vinegar has to be a minimum of 5% acidity. Okay, nothing under 5%. It has to be 5% acidity to be safe for canning. Okay, so this would be the point where I'd say, any questions? But again, this is a virtual world and this is a pre-recorded class. So the recipe calls for 4 pounds pickling cucumbers, 2 pounds onions. 2 pounds of onions is about 4 medium-sized onions. 4 medium or 8 small onions. I used 4 medium onions. Half cup of canning or pickling salt. If you don't have canning or pickling salt, you can also use kosher salt. Canning supplies are in high demand now. It's getting really difficult to find pint-sized canning jars, pickling salt. So I ran out of pickling salt, so I used kosher salt. And that kosher salt is fine. It's just the crystals are just larger with the kosher salt. But you don't want to use regular table salt because it has iodine and anti-caking agents, and you don't want any of that. You just want pure salt. So again, canning or kosher. 2 cups of sugar, 2 tablespoons mustard seed. This is our mustard seed. 2 teaspoons celery seed. This is our celery seed. 2 teaspoons turmeric. 1 teaspoon peppercorns. I know the label says black peppercorns, but the last time I purchased peppercorns, I decided that I wanted to use the colorful peppercorns, so I got the multicolored peppercorns. Let's see, a teaspoon of ground ginger, and again, vinegar. Now you can use, I prefer apple cider vinegar in my canning, but you can use white distilled vinegar as well. It's just, it's your preference. The only thing you have to make sure of is that you are using vinegar that it has 5% acidity. Okay, that's the most important thing. The vinegar has to be 5% acidity. Okay, and that's 3 cups. So we'll start with our 2-cup measuring cup. Okay. So that's 2 cups. And we're gonna add it to the pot. Then an additional cup. I told Nakaya I was gonna become a YouTube rock star, so y'all can tell me how I'm doing. Then I want to shout out to my videographer. So that's 3 cups apple cider vinegar. And then we want 2 cups, and I'll get another measuring cup. Usually I put the sugar in first so that my measuring cup won't be wet. Right, so we've got our 2 cups, and I always use organic sugar. Okay, so that's 2 cups of sugar, 2 tablespoons yellow mustard seed. So I'll do that over the pot just in case. Okay, so that's 1 tablespoon. 2 tablespoons yellow mustard seed, 2 teaspoons celery seed. Okay. Yep, that's 2 teaspoons celery seed. That's 1 teaspoon. 2 teaspoons. Okay, 2 teaspoons turmeric. 1. Oh no. Oops. And see, that's why it's always important to read the labels. I got all excited. This is ground ginger. So it calls for 1 teaspoon ground ginger. So we have a 1 teaspoon ground ginger. But let that be a lesson. Okay. This is turmeric. So we want 2 teaspoons of turmeric. Okay, 1 and 2. And let's see. Last but not least, we have 1 teaspoon peppercorns. Okay. Whew. Boy, peppercorns are strong. Okay, so we have everything for our brine. And I'll get a spoon and turn this on, because what we want to do is we want to bring the brine to a boil. And once it comes to a boil, we will add our cucumbers and onions. That's about how long it'll take for the cucumbers to come to a boil. About 8 to 10 minutes. Once they come to a boil, you want to turn the fire off of your pot, and that's when we will pack the hot cucumber onion mixture into our jars. Okay. So one of the things that I really like about this Ball Blue Book of Preserves is the fact that it goes through the learning process step by step. And we were talking earlier about the two types of canning, the hot water bath and the pressure canning, and why you do, or for what types of food you do each. Um, and so it has a little guide here that talks about the growth and destruction of microorganisms and the temperature. So at 240 degrees, and that's your pressure canning. Okay, so it says 240 degrees is the temperature at which bacterial spores are destroyed in low acid foods. Then 212 degrees is the boiling point of water at sea level. Processing temperature for high acid foods in a boiling water canner when processed at or below 1,000 feet above sea level. And this is the temperature. 180 degrees to 212 degrees is the temperature at which molds, yeast, and some bacteria are destroyed in high acid foods. And you don't want to go below 180 degrees. As a matter of fact, you want to make sure that it's a rolling boil. And a rolling boil, oh, can you see it? Okay, rolling boil is 212 degrees. Molds are fungi that grow as silken threads and appear as fuzz on food. Some molds can produce mycotoxins, which are harmful to eat. Molds thrive on the acids that are a protection against bacteria. Yeast, which are also fungi, cause food to ferment, making it unfit to eat. Fortunately, the acid in foods protects against the growth of bacteria. However, molds and yeast are ever present. Molds and yeast are easily destroyed at temperatures between 140 and 190 degrees. Boiling water processing heats foods to 212 degrees, which is more than enough to destroy the molds and yeast without destroying the quality of the product. Bacteria are not easily destroyed. Certain bacteria actually thrive at temperatures that destroy molds and yeast. Salmonella is destroyed when held at 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Staphylococcus aureus, or staph, is destroyed if food is kept above 140 degrees. Staph bacteria produces a toxin that must be destroyed by heating the product to 240 degrees for the time specified by a tested home canning recipe. Botulism is a food poisoning, and that's one of the things I think that most of us have heard about. Botulism in foods that have been improperly canned. Botulism is a food poisoning caused by the bacterium Clostridium botulinum. This bacteria is also readily destroyed by boiling. However, the toxin producing spores cannot readily be destroyed at 212 degrees. And that is why low acid foods must be prepared in the pressure canner and not a hot water bath canner. Our brine has come to a boil. Now it's time to add the cucumbers and onions. Whoops. All right. Come to a boil. 10 minutes. Smells so good. Sorry. and I serve as the Education and Outreach Director for the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network. I also coordinate our youth program, the Food Warriors Youth Development Program. So I teach young people, our food warriors are between the ages of 5 and 12. They learn urban gardening, health education, and nutrition education. When the children are not actively growing in the garden, then we're having nutrition classes, we're having education classes, and most importantly, the children are not only learning how to grow food, but they're also learning how to prepare the foods that they grow in their gardens, in addition to learning what it means to be good stewards of Mother Earth. So some of the things that we do in our Food Warriors program, the children are learning about herbs. They learned that some of those things that we generally call weeds actually have health benefits. We've made salves from calendula, the calendula flowers that we grow in the garden, as well as putting the flowers in our salads because calendula is an edible flower. They have also made herbal teas, and they learn what those health benefits are in the herbs that we're growing in our garden. Unfortunately, because we're in this COVID pandemic, we have not been, the children have not been working in the gardens, but the gardens are still being maintained by myself and our Food Warriors assistant, BB Jamila. So what we have done is we've taken the herbs that we're growing in the garden, the calendula, the chamomile, and the lavender, and we've created a wonderful herbal tea. We're going to send care packages to all of our Food Warriors families, along with a brochure that explains what the particular herb is, what its health benefits are, and also some of the properties of those herbs. So we will be doing that. We have our families to come to our Food Warrior site at the Shrines of the Black Madonna and pick up pickles, because I have probably been making bread and butter pickles for the last 4 weeks.
Every single day.
Not every day, but at least twice a week. So, and if you're interested in a jar of bread and butter pickles, just let me know. For those, if we have anyone who is participating and is not familiar with the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, our organization is a Black-led food security, food sovereignty, food justice organization. We have several major, I think, are major projects within the city of Detroit, and these projects are projects that are designed to be models for what can actually be realized when a community comes together under the banner of resilience, self-reliance, and self-determination. So we have a 7-acre farm, D-Town Farm. D-Town, we grow over 30 different crops. We are also in the process of developing a full-service brick and mortar cooperative grocery store. The Detroit People's Food Co-op. The Detroit People's Food Co-op will be a full-service member owner grocery store that will be located in Detroit's North End. The co-op will be a part of a larger project called the Detroit Food Commons. The Commons will be the building itself. And in the Commons, again, the grocery store will be located on the main floor, the first floor. The second floor, we will have 2 community kitchens. So food entrepreneurs who are in need of a licensed kitchen can prepare their products for sale in the commercial kitchens. We will also have a community meeting space, as well as the offices. The Commons will also house the offices of the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network. If you're interested in becoming a member, you can go to the website DetroitPeoplesFoodCoop.com, and you can become a member from the website. The membership, there's a one-time lifetime membership of $200. You can pay it in one lump sum, or you can pay in 10 $20 installments. So if you're not a member, what are you waiting for? I understand that we have met our goal of 1,000 members. Yay! But that does not mean that we are only seeking 1,000 members. That was the goal that we set in order to meet that threshold that would be necessary for our project to be viable. So we've met that threshold. If you're not a member, come on and join us, because hopefully now that we've met that 1,000 member mark, hopefully soon we will be able to put a stake in the ground that says future home of the Detroit People's Food Commons and the Detroit People's Food Co-op. The grocery store, I'm not sure if I already said it, but if I did, it's okay. I'll say it again. The grocery store will be located on the corner, on the southeast corner of Euclid and Woodward and Euclid in Detroit's North End. Okay. Trying to think if I left anything out. Recently, the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, along with Keep Growing Detroit and our sister farm, Oakland Avenue Urban Farms, came together and initiated a Detroit Black Farmers Land Fund. And the purpose of the land fund was to be able to provide funds for farmers and gardeners who were either seeking to purchase land to grow on, or were growing on land that they did not own but wanted to possibly own the land. The goal, and this fund was, it was launched on June 19th of this year, just a couple of months ago. The goal of the fund was to raise $5,000. Well, the fund raised over, I think it was over almost $55,000. So shout out to DBCFSN, to Keep Growing Detroit, and to Oakland Avenue Urban Farms for our commitment to working to build power within Detroit's Black community. The pot over here. Okay. And I'm going to get the slotted spoon and the, excuse me, slotted spoon and the ladle. Let's see, what else do I need? Okay, so now we are going to fill our jars. Look how you looking there. Give me a spoon. Can you see? Okay. And then I'll ladle the brine on top. Okay, and that is our 1/4-inch head space. So I'll put that here. You know what? Let me do this. I don't want. And once we're done, we'll wipe the we will wipe the tops of our jars because we don't want anything to hinder our lids from sealing. And if there is any juice or a little piece of onion or anything around the rim of that jar, it will not seal. Oh my God, this smells so good. Oh yeah, yeah. We will. Oh, thank you, Nakai. So now I'm gonna turn the fire all the way up because we want this to come to a rolling boil. Okay, it has to be a rolling boil before you can set the timer. And for our pickles, we process them for 10 minutes. But that doesn't begin until the water is rolling. It's a rolling boil. Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay. Those spices get up in your nostrils. Okay, that's jar number 2. 5 jars. Looks like we might have enough. I don't have, I didn't prepare enough jars because I only normally get 4 pints. But these are smaller cucumbers, and I didn't account for that. The smaller cucumbers. I'll just put them in a jar, put them in the refrigerator. That quarter mark. There you go. Jar number 5. Sometimes take the funnel off after I have filled the jars with the pickles to better be able to gauge the amount of brine. This one has a lot of, let's see, oops. Air pockets. Okay. All right. Yep. Actually got enough pickles left for another jar, but I only processed 5 jars, and I thought that that was going to be too many. Okay, so we've gotten our jars filled. The next step is to wipe off the top. Okay, this one looks like it can use a little more brine. Yep. And release those air bubbles. And when you release those air bubbles, yep. Okay. So I'm going to get paper towel, wet the paper towel. And I've even seen sometimes people use vinegar to wipe around the edge of the jar. I'll just use this paper towel. Wipe around the edge. I'll get my my lids and my bands. And like I said, the water wasn't so hot that I couldn't touch it. Okay. Put that band on. Oops. Sorry, put the lid on. Okay. Put the lid on. Screw it finger tight. You don't wanna screw the band on extremely tight. Just finger tight. Okay. Yep. Set it aside. Right. We'll just set it right here. Okay. The next jar, we're gonna do the same thing. I think my videographer is getting tired. If for whatever reason your jar does not seal, you have two options. You can put on a new lid and you can reprocess it, or you can simply put the jar once it once it cools. You can just put it in the refrigerator, and of course it won't have the same it won't last as long as those that have been canned, but you know, as long as you're going to eat it up in a week or two. As a matter of fact, these pickles will last 3 to 4 weeks in the refrigerator. So if you get a jar and it doesn't seal, you can either reprocess it. I've done that on occasion, or again, you can just simply put it in the refrigerator, and as long as you consume it in a reasonable amount of time. But like I said, these pickles will last in the refrigerator 3 or 4 weeks. But they're so good, I don't think you'll even have to worry about that. Yeah. And I can hear in the background the canner. It's boiling. It's boiling. I can hear it. Oh, look at those air bubbles popping up. Yeah. Quite a few pickles left. Okay. And see, this is what the water needs to look like. So as soon as we put these in, we can begin our timer. These pickles are processed for 10 minutes, and be very careful. Whew. And you also, important is you have to make sure that the water covers the tops of your jars. Okay, the jars have to be totally, completely submerged in the water. Totally and completely. Okay. Now, if you are interested in purchasing fresh produce, we have an online market. And I will give you the address to that online market when we are live on Thursday, because I don't know it from memory, but you might be able to go to our website. I'm not sure if the online market is on the website, dbcfsn.org. Each week there will be a list of the produce and herbs that are available, and you can pay online and then curbside pick it up. Oakland Avenue also accepts EBT. D-Town Farm does not. We don't yet have the capacity for EBT sales, but Oakland Avenue does. Yeah, it's not on there. But thank you. My videographer is just awesome. She's awesome. She's also my wonderful, wonderful granddaughter. Who will be a high schooler in 2 weeks. Wow. Our jars out. We will sit them on the counter, and for 12 to 24 hours, usually, and what you want to hear is, you want to hear the little ping. When you hear that little ping, you know that your jar has sealed. And your second test is to press down in the center. There's a little button in the center of your ring. You want to press down on that button. If the button goes down, you know that your jar did not seal. Okay, if your button goes down, you know that the jar didn't seal. But if there's a little indentation in the middle, you are good to go. You are good to go. And again, if for whatever reason one of your jars, it's happened to me before, if one of your jars for whatever reason does not seal, you have the option of either processing, or you can simply put it in the refrigerator and consume. Okay. Okay. So this has been an interesting journey because I can't see you all, but a good one nevertheless. I hope that you all have enjoyed it, and I hope that on Thursday there are questions and we can have some dialogue virtually. Jar 2. Jar 3. Jar 4. And jar 5. And I heard one ping. Yep, I heard one ping. Did I hear 2 pings?
I heard a floor.
Did you hear a ping? No? Okay, I know I heard one. Okay, so again, I want to thank you all for attending Keep Growing Detroit's Canning 101 with Mama Hanifa. Take care, continue to stay safe, and be well.